Ah, the colors of summer. The flowers are all out in bloom, the grass is green, everything is just a vibrant color palette. It's so nice. Too bad it wouldn't last forever. Oh well, such is life. Good morning, everybody. It's Stephen here for Bland Designs, and welcome to my weekly vlog number 178 for July the 27th, 2020. And it is day 138 of this crisis that we're living through, by my reckoning. It might be a little longer for some, it might be a little less for others. Whatever, moving right along. Okay. So behind me, I finished it. I have it all quilted. It is bound. It is done. It's laying on the guest room bed, along with about 10 other quilts as well. But it's my Glorious and Free quilt, and I've shown this to you before, but now I have the borders on it, and it's all quilted, wavy line, walking foot quilting done on it. And you saw all this before. The only thing you didn't see was basically the finished effect with the border on it and the backing. I think I showed that to you before. If you're really interested in more about that, you will find the latest issue of, or latest episode of The Idiot Quilter. I talk a little bit about that and some other things, and I'll come to that in a few minutes. Okay, so that I got finished. That's nice. That's out of my way. And I'm working on a whole bunch of different things right now. As I've told you before, I've got a lot of UFOs. UFOs are unfinished objects. That's what we call quilt tops that haven't been quilted yet in the quilting world. But I'm also working on these. Now, what are these? These are blocks to make a wall hanging. Or it could be a quilt, but it's very densely embroidered, so I think it would be better as a wall hanging. But I think I may have shown you this before, but now I have 4 of them done. 4 out of 16. They are taking me some time. Loose thread. But I really think they're spectacular. I mean, each one of these little squares takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours to do. So it's not a small project. And then these will all get stitched together across, and they will make a wall hanging for Halloween. And this is what they call a sashing piece. Now, there are several of these. They go across. You have the rows, and these are attached to the bottom, and they'll run straight across. And there'll be different ones of these sashings as well. This row will have the ghosts. Another row will have something different as well. So it's coming along quite nicely, but it is going to take some time. Plus, I'm working on a second one, not for Halloween, but for Christmas, which has 32 tiles involved in it. These are tiles. So that's going to take me some time too, and I'm hoping to get that done before Christmas so I can hang it up as well. So lots to do. I love doing machine embroidery, as you know, but the one thing about machine embroidery that is a bit boring is you sit there and you watch as it's doing this. And as sure as you get up out of your chair and go away, that's when you'll have a thread break or some other little minor problem in the embroidery that needs your attention. It never seems to fail. I guess it's Murphy's Law or something like that. But actually, just as an aside here, to keep myself amused, I've been watching people do English paper piecing, which is basically involves hand sewing. And I've said before, I hate hand sewing. I'm usually a bloody mess. But hexagons seem to be the favorite thing to do in this kind of thing. And so I thought I'd turn my hand to it. And let me just grab the little piece I worked on yesterday, just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. These hexagons that are all sewn together by hand. Now, it's a little tedious. I find it a little tedious. Many people find this very enjoyable, very relaxing. And I kind of get why they say that, because it's something that keeps your hands busy while you're doing something else. You know, when you have time where you have to wait, you know, at the doctor's office or dentist's office or something like that, what a lot of of people do is they pull this out and they can work on it, because all you need is basically a needle and a thread and your little hexagons. Now, I made the hexagons. What you do is, see this green part here? That's a piece of actually scrapbooking paper is what I'm using. You need a stiff kind of paper, and it needs to be cut into these hexagon shapes. Now, you can buy commercially made ones, or you can cut them using a die cutting machine like a Big Shot or whatever. I chose to make mine using my Cricut. And so I have them all cut out here. You see there's a hole in the center. That's so you can pull them out later, because you don't leave these in after you've got this all sewn up. And essentially, you're taking pieces of fabric that are a little bigger than these hexagons, about a 1/4 inch bigger all the way around, and you're folding them over the edge. Now, the traditional way is to do a basting stitch kind of a thing, to hold them in. You pull the basting stitch out later, and then you pull out the paper once you've got them all sewn together. But the modern way to do it seems to be with a water-soluble glue stick, just a kid's, Elmer's washable glue stick, and you put that on the edges, fold these over, and around you go. And actually, it doesn't take much to do these. They're very fast. So the idea is you make up a whole pile of these first, and then you start stitching them together. And so this was the first one. I tried this yesterday while my embroidery machine was busy making one of those haunted village blocks that I showed you. And actually, I think it turned out pretty good. There was very little bloodletting. I did stab myself a couple of times, but I think you get better at it as time goes by. So I might just keep a little supply of these off to the side, and anytime that I feel like, I need a break from machine sewing, quilting, whatever, embroidery, I can go to something like this. Or if we decide to go out on a road trip, yeah, right, I just take this along and in the car work on it. And eventually these become an applique, and you can make a whole quilt out of them, or a wall hanging, or something like that, whatever. So right now it's just an experiment. See, my stitches are coming out in that spot a little bit. Not the best sewer. But yeah, it's something new, something different, and we'll see how that turns out as time goes by. I always like to try new things. Think outside of the box, as they say. So let me put that off to the side. Okay, so thinking about thinking outside of the box, I have shown this particular YouTube channel before, Joseph's Machines it's called. It's a guy from New Zealand who makes these incredible machines that do everyday things. I mean, they're complete imagination, and they're for fun. And I love watching his YouTube channel and watching the creations he's done. But he has sort of a sub area in that channel that he calls "What's Your Problem?" And kids say, they give him ideas for making machines. It's quite comical, and it's just something that really just sparks a real sense of wonderment in you, I think. So I'm revisiting that YouTube channel, but specifically this one area he has called "What's Your Problem?" This week's YouTube channel is by a person that I think I reviewed before, called Joseph's Machines. But I wanted to highlight this entertaining YouTube channel again for one of the playlists, which is called "What's Your Problem?", where Joseph designs a machine to solve some very interesting problems that people, mostly young people, submit to him. This is a fascinating YouTube channel because, well, basically he makes these weird and bizarre machines out of everyday household objects. They're meant for entertainment. They are not practical, but that doesn't matter. It just shows a great deal of creativity and imagination. So if you want something that's really interesting to watch and gets your creative juices really flowing, then check out Joseph's Machines, What's Your Problem? So the link is in the show notes below for that. And you should really check it out. It'll make you laugh. It'll make you think. It may even inspire some creativity. You get bored one day, you can find some balls and marbles and rulers and make yourself a machine. Just saying. It's an option. Okay, link to Stephen and Walter Live is below. We did something a little different this week. We were trying to get away from talking about the COVID situation because, it's just getting to us. Everybody, it's getting to everybody. It's same old, isn't it? So someone had requested a few weeks ago that we show what changes Walter had made to his sewing room. And so we decided to do a little live tour of Walter's sewing area and my sewing area. So that's in Stephen and Walter Live this week. So if you're interested in seeing that, check it out, and the link's below. Already mentioned that there's a link to the latest version of Idiot Quilter. I called it It's Christmas in July, and I'm focusing on this quilt plus Christmas fabric that I had bought, and I'm talking about Christmas projects that I'm about to get started on, for gifts and things like that in whatever form Christmas comes in this year. So you can check that out too if you're interested. And the book of the week is listed below as well. So that takes me to what's pissing me off this week. Well, I thought, what am I going to talk about this week? I'm not anymore, nothing stands out in my mind this week that's really pissing me off. I could talk about the whole problem with COVID, how the state's numbers keep going up, how the Americans are trying to get into Canada and we're not letting them in, how there isn't enough health care for the people who don't have a lot of money in the United States, how hospitals in Texas are turning away people, how the numbers in Florida are sky high, how people in the United States are dying left and right from this, how Canada is starting to have, in certain areas, a little bit of an increase again because nimrods are going to bars or not following the rules and all that. I could talk about that. We can all talk about that. And it's just getting to the point where I don't want to talk about this anymore. And I think we need to start having a life again. Now, when I say that, a new life, a life that isn't the same as it once was. And we've talked about that before. Life is never going to be the same, ever, again, like it used to be before COVID. We know that. But we've just got to get on with it, don't we? And it's just something that I don't want to talk about this anymore. Because it's not bringing about a cure. It's not making me feel happy. And that's a danger right now, isn't it, for all of us? This big hole of depression we seem to be falling into. I think we need to start remembering the good things. There are good things happening in our lives right now. And I think we need to focus more on those rather than waking up every morning and feeling depressed. For example, I love being retired, okay? Actually, being retired couldn't have happened at a better time in life for me. With this whole COVID thing, one, I was already prepared for sticking around the house more because that's what you do when you're retired, okay? I was prepared before COVID happened to find my own amusements and to find joy in those amusements. And what I mean is, I'm glad that I'm a crafter. I'm glad that I picked up quilting. I'm glad that I'm experimenting in the world of paper crafts, scrapbooking, card making, mixed media, quilt making, sewing, embroidery, all those things. So much is there that makes me happy. I'm happiest when I am creating. So I should focus more on that. Not focus on the doomsday kind of mentality that we are all subject to right now, but let's focus on the things that bring us joy. Sounds like what's her name that does all the organizing of stuff, if it doesn't give you joy, throw it away, or whatever that is. Calamari or whatever it is. I want to say calamari, but that's something totally different. But you know who I'm talking about. But there are things to find joy in. I mean, people are doing a lot of things with their families now that they didn't have time to do before. Now, of course, people are getting a little worried about the kids going back to school and all that kind of stuff, but let's not talk about that. This is still July. This is still the summer for us here in the Northern Hemisphere. The weather, for the most part this summer, at least where I live, has been really great. It's been hot. I don't have a problem with hot. I don't. A lot of people complain about that. But, I look at it from the point of view of the part of the world that I live in. We only get about 2 months of decent summer weather, if we're lucky to have decent summer weather. And then, bang, we're back into the cold and the gray. So, let's not waste it. I know a lot of people are saying that the summer has just been wasted. It's been a lost summer because of COVID. That's not the way to look at it. Look at it as a summer for getting out, going for long walks, enjoying nature, enjoying things that are around you. Now, that might be more difficult if you live in a high concentrated urban center like downtown Toronto or something like that. But there are parks, things like that. Am I a nature lover? Well, I don't hate it any more than anybody else, but I am not a tree hugger or anything like that. But, starting to appreciate a little bit when I look out my patio doors and I see the trees that are all in behind me and the green of them. And, it could be my imagination, but I'm seeing a lot more wildlife this summer. I do live on the edge of a forest, yes, but I see a lot more of it. Like last week we had the little visit from the chipmunk. So cute, so destructive. We've had a couple of skunks. Skunks are okay. They're cute too. I think skunks are cute. The only thing is you want to go up and give them a little pet, but that's not a good idea. All right? But, skunks are there to eat the grubs. And right now we've got a lot of grub problem in our back lawn. So, good eating there, skunks. The birds, all kinds of birds. Now, I am not a, what's the name? I'm ornithologist, have I got the right word? Someone who loves birds, studies birds, whatever. I'm sorry if I got that word wrong, but anyways, I tried. But we have all kinds of birds. We have blue jays, we have cardinals. Their colors are brilliant. Just brilliant against the bright green of the trees. I never really stopped to think about how lucky I am to live where I live to be able to see those things. What else brings joy to you? Well, I have food. I have toilet paper. Okay, that seems like, yeah, really. But, the thing about the food is we've been exploring with cooking things we've never cooked before. I'm going to talk a little bit about something that Walter made this week that he's never made before. It's given us that time to do that and to reflect on those things instead of, well, I'm bored, let's go to the mall kind of a deal. I'm still shopping, but I have discovered, although I already knew about it, but I have discovered it in a much more keen way, online shopping. There's a lot of things out there that you can get that before you would run off to Costco to pick up or to Walmart or wherever. So, and it's the convenience of that. I don't have to fight crowds. I have all the time in the world to sit there and study and compare prices and quality of products, all in the leisure of my own home. There's lots of entertainment available. Yes, it's not in a crowded movie theater. It isn't a live stage production, but it's the next best thing. Netflix, television, on-demand movies, all these kind of things are all available to us. And you don't have to spend a lot of money on those things. Netflix is very reasonable in its price, and there are other ways to get things that, well, most people already have a subscription to, cable TV or whatever. So there's lots of things on that you can, watch, and you can turn around and PVR them and watch them at your own leisure and skip through the commercials. That's a nice thing, isn't it? People are setting up outdoor theaters in their homes. You got an old sheet, you got a projector, away you go. You can put your favorite shows out off your patio and things like that. Haven't tried that idea yet, but I'm thinking about it. And that's kind of fun, isn't it? Especially if you got kids. Movie night with the kids, the whole bit. Well, wouldn't be actually my idea of fun. But I'm sure lots of people like that. I have discovered new things on YouTube as well, like game shows. You've seen me review them on here from the BBC that I've never heard of before, that are a real major source of amusement and entertainment for us that we watch. Walter's taking a class online. He's been taking several of them. You know, didn't have to go out for that. It's almost like being one-on-one with the instructor through Zoom. You know, Zoom has been a godsend, really, through all of this crisis as well. I mean, we don't need to be out of touch with our families or our friends. Sure, maybe it's not quite the same as seeing them in person, but then again, think about it. What do you do when you see these people in person? The same thing you do on Zoom. You talk, right? So it can work. I mean, we threw a Zoom party for some of our friends during Pride. It actually worked out. We had a good time that night. And so what I'm saying is, and what I'm pissed off about, is that something like this crisis we're going through right now, I'm pissed off that it's at times bringing me down. It's making me think that life isn't worth living. It is worth living. There is stuff happening every day that is worth your attention, that you should find joy in. And I think that's the way that we're going to survive this crisis right now, mentally and emotionally, is find the joy. Find the things that make you happy. Don't get up in the morning and look at it, oh God, it's another day of isolation. It's another day where I can't see people. It's another day where I can't go out and enjoy myself. You can still enjoy yourself. In fact, near the end of today's vlog, I'm going to talk about something that Walter and I are going to try probably this week. That's a little different. So, don't despair. We'll get through this thing. Let's get through it happy. Let's not come out of this thinking we need to go through years of therapy because of it. Yes, life will not be the same when we come out of this, but life can be better when we come out of this if we just take the time to find the joy in the everyday things we do and have around us. So, that's what I'm pissed off at this week. Moving on. Okay. Product reviews. Okay, I did buy some more Christmas fabric. Of course I did. I'm not quite done because my local quilting store is supposed to be getting some more in this week or whatever. They got a little bit in last week. I went in and I bought, didn't have that much still to choose from. That was grabbing me. But I did buy two of these. These are fairly classic background kind of stuff. One in white and silver, one in gold and red. But I bought a couple of meters of those because they're good for, well, they're good for everything. And they'll go pretty much with every piece of fabric I have so far. I've got to slow down a little bit on the Christmas fabric because I'm getting quite a bit of it now. And, well, I'll have some Christmas fabric for next year as well, I guess. What else? I'm just looking at my notes here. Oh, okay. So I got a bottle of this. And you're going to say, what's this? Well, remember how I was experimenting with printing on fabric and was having the problem with the inkjet ink, of course, not being water repellent? Well, this is one half of a two-part system that is supposed to solve that problem for me. I'm waiting for the other part to come. The other part is called Bubble Inkjet something. You treat the fabric with it. I think I spoke about that last week. And before you print, and then it's supposed to make it your ink, when it goes on, make it water repellent. And this is supposed to wash out any over dyeing of it. You use the two in conjunction. At least that's the theory that I've been reading about. So I got this stuff. It's called Synthropol. This stuff is good for other things too. Now, okay, I'm basing what I'm telling you right now on what I have read. I have not used this yet. But apparently, if you have something that, you know, bled into another fabric when you put it in the wash, this is supposed to help take it out. You're supposed to use about a capful or a couple of capfuls or something like this in your washing machine, and it's supposed to lift it out. It sort of serves like a color catcher sheet, but I think it does a little bit more than that. Now, this is very expensive. This was like about $51 on Amazon for a bottle. It's a big bottle. I think it'll last a long time. But that's all I know about it right now. But it was recommended you use this in conjunction with the other stuff that I haven't gotten yet. It's coming in the next couple of weeks. So then I'll experiment with them once the other stuff comes, and I'll let you know how it all works out. So this is called Synthropol, if you're interested in looking it up. And let's see, what else? Okay, didn't buy these, but Walter was looking in his stash of things, and when he first attempted quilting, I will say attempted quilting, actually what he did create was wonderful. He's never actually done the quilting of those things yet. I've offered to take them off his hands and do it for him, but he seems to be resistant to that idea. Fine, for whatever reason. But he was looking through his stuff, and he had bought a couple of kits back probably at a couple of shows that we had gone to. One of them is a Bargello. Now, I have made a Bargello before, and I have shown it to you. Bargello is essentially strips of fabric that create the illusion of almost a curve, but they're really straight. And he had this kit. And the colors are right up my alley as well. He spent a lot of money for this kit. He spent $119 for his kit. And it comes with all the fabrics you need to cut up in this and the pattern. That I assume the pattern's in here somewhere for it. I haven't opened up the package. So he gave that to me since he figures he'll never ever get around to putting it together. I may never get around to putting it together either. It's just another thing on my pile of things to do. I'll have to live to be 1,000 to get through all the projects that I want to do. And that's my plan. I'm just saying. The other one he gave me is sort of on the same line as a Bargello, but it's a little different. And I've got this one in a plastic case here because I took the fabrics out to look at them and to iron them and everything. Funny thing is, I have this pattern. I bought this pattern some time ago, but I didn't buy the fabrics. And then he saw it as a kit, and it came with all the fabrics to create this. So he bought it, and now I have it to put together. The fabrics are really, really nice. They are Northcott fabrics. Again, the color scheme that I love. And there's quite a few of them in here. It keeps going on. I think there's 18 different fabrics. They're already cut down to the amounts that you need, but then I have to do the other subcutting of all of this. I also, because this kit actually lists the fabrics that you use, but it's a different line of fabric than what the kit had with it, so I've got to figure out where this stuff will go in here. I don't think it's going to be too difficult to figure out. In fact, yeah, looking at this, it does look like it's these fabrics, but inside they're called something else, different numbers. So I don't, I'm sure I can figure it out. Hey, if I figured this one out, I can figure this out. So those are a couple of future projects that I will work on at some point in time. So that's about all that's new this week. I do have some other things on order. Yes, I have some more Christmas fabric on order. I have a couple of jelly rolls, which are 2.5-inch strips that I've ordered. They're supposed to come today, actually, from a store called thequiltstore.ca. If you're a quilter and you live in Canada, or, well, Canada, yes, Ontario especially, check them out, thequiltstore.ca. Good selection of fabrics. Excellent delivery service. I ordered these on Thursday night, late, at about 9 o'clock. You know, this is what happens. We sit out on the patio on a nice summer evening, have a few drinks, and then I shop. Not a good combination. You know, wine and shopping. More wine, more shopping. Online, but one of those things that brings me joy. So I ordered a couple of jelly rolls of Christmas fabric from the Quilt Store, and they're supposed to come today. In fact, the next morning I got an email, I don't think these people sleep, saying that my order had been shipped. Now it's coming by a courier service called Campar, and I don't think Campar delivers on the weekends. That's the only reason why I didn't get it like Saturday morning. But I can trace it on an app on my phone. I know exactly where it is, and yeah, it says it's coming today. So that's great. So great spot. Little plug for them. They don't pay me. They don't even know I do this. But I only tell you about those things that I think are good. All right, so just looking at my list here. What else do I have coming? Oh yeah, I ordered some more stuff from actually Monfil's sister, actually their commercial end of their company, Super Punch it's called. I ordered some Madeira embroidery threads. I've heard really good things about Madeira, and they're expensive. I could get a package of Madeira embroidery threads, 8 little spools, like 200 meters or something on a spool, for about $49 at my local quilt store. And I almost bought them. But then I found that on Super Punch I could get large spools. I think there's 1,200 meters or something like that on them, a lot more, for a lot less. I think it was like $12.99 a spool. Now there's a lot of colors in this stuff, but I just stuck to the basic colors, you know, red, blue, green, red, yellow, orange, black, white, gray, kind of a thing, and bought like about 9 spools of this. That was still, you know, over $100. But just to try it, to see how it compares to the one I usually use, which is Floriani, which I love Floriani, but just to see. So that's supposed to be coming at some point in time. They haven't sent me the shipping notice yet, but I'm sure I will get that today because I ordered it on the weekend. So anyways, so yeah, some other things to show you when they come. All right, that takes us to the book of the week. And I just forget about all the books that I have. And this is another one on making journals and things like that. It's called Bookcraft. Bookcraft, techniques for binding, folding, decorating to create books and more. So obviously when I got this book, I went through it with lots of things I want to try. I need to revisit these pages because I've never tried a lot of these. But again, a very good book if you want to get into journal making. It's got the basics of how to bind a book, which is good to know. But then it goes beyond the basics and starts showing you some very decorative and creative ideas for creating unique, one-of-a-kind books. Great if you want to give something different to somebody for a gift. Now, speaking of, what brings me joy, why not bring joy to other people? If you've got the time right now, maybe, why not try something like this? Okay, you might enter into, if you've never made a journal before, if you think it's too hard to make, you couldn't do possibly anything like that, if you've got the slightest interest in it, then get one of these kind of books and go for it. Give it a try. It's only paper. What can it hurt? And you might open up a whole new world for yourself of creativity, which will bring you joy. So anyways, this is a great book. You can see I found a lot of ideas in it because I have them all marked on these pages. Let's take a look here. What did I mark? Yeah, my problem is I get a book, I go through it. Ooh, I made notes. Okay, that's interesting. I must have got, yeah. Gluing method for spine, no sewing. Ooh, that's something. I'm just looking here. Post binding for scrapbooks. Okay. I'm reading my own little notes on things. Anything here else I can see that stands out? Ooh, surface sculpting. Well, that's interesting. You get this embossed look on a cover. Maybe I need to spend some time. That's my problem. I'm divided between all of the things, my crafts, and what I want to do, but quilting still calls to me the strongest. Okay, so this book, how much? I paid $24.95 Canadian for it. It is on Amazon for $25.18. So it's actually a little bit more plus shipping now. But you might be able to get it in the used book section of Amazon for less than that. So anyways, another good resource. And it's by Heather Weston. Links below. Speaking of books, I forgot to show you these. These came last week. These are more directed towards quilters, something called EQ8, which is electric quilt. It's meant for designing quilts. And it has a fairly steep learning curve, so I got a couple of more books, Lessons for Beginners. I didn't get this one, actually. This one I've had for a while. I worked my way through it when I first got Electric Quilt, but I got this one, Designing Quilts, and I got another one, it's over there somewhere, called Designing Blocks. And again, I bought them as reference books because I do use Electric Quilt to design quilts sometimes, but just a little bit of an aside. If you're not a quilter, it will mean nothing to you, but those of you that are, good resource. Okay, that takes us to what I'm doing on the latest journal project, the Clockwork Garden Journal. This is part 3. I show you how I am putting the signatures into it and what I'm doing with the covers of the books as well.
So the next thing I did to the Clockwork Journal was to create the outside covers. Now these are just the basic covers. So what I did was I printed out one of Mike Deacon's Digi downloads for this collection called Collecting Memories, and blew it up in Photoshop because it was smaller than this, and printed it out on the same kind of papers I used on the signatures. And then to glue it down, well, first of all, this kind of ink from my Epson printer is not waterproof. So if I put any wet mediums on this in the future, or if this gets caught out in the rain, these colors will probably run. So what I did was I let the ink dry when it came out of the printer, and then I sprayed it with a final fixative waterproofing spray. And that should protect it. It won't make it completely waterproof, but I mean, as long as you're not going to throw this in a pool of water, you should be okay. But what it will do is, if I'm going to add more, and I do intend to, 3-dimensional elements on here that I might be gluing down with, say, matte medium, the matte medium is fairly wet, so it could make the colors run. So this will protect the colors from running. At least that's my theory. And on the back, I just did the same thing to it. So that's been done. Now, I have my signatures bound into the book, and how I did this was I made it like a traveler's journal. I used elastic cord, punched holes. Here's the spine in the top and in the bottom, and ran these cords through and knotted them on the inside. Not the prettiest knot, but it will serve the purpose. This is the best I had available. And there are 5 signatures in here in total. And the whole idea of doing it this way is that it means that if these get filled up, new ones can be put into them. You could also slip notes or other little pieces of paraphernalia under each of these bands, and I may do that as part of the journal as well. So there are 5 signatures in here in total, and this is what it looks like from the top. Now, there's plenty of room for expansion, and I do intend to include some pockets and some tags and some other elements inside of this journal. On the back of it, what I did was I gathered together the elastics to create this pattern and just put a piece of decorative hemp cord around the center, and I'm leaving the tails long for now because I'm thinking I might attach some things to these tails, so I didn't want to cut them right off yet. So the basic journal is done. Now it's time to add elements to it and to embellish it. For example, I do want to add some pockets and some tags, as I already said, and I'm going to use the elements that come from the Digi download set. I do want to add something on this page and something on this page. Back page here, get it open. Probably it will be a pocket on one of those, and possibly an envelope or something with a tag in it on the other. I don't know what yet. I will do that. And on the cover, I want to add some corner pieces, maybe some Tim Holtz corner pieces as well here that'll be dimensional, and maybe a few other things as well. So right now we have the basic journal, it's just the basic journal, finished. From here on in, we add more elements.
So next time we'll get into more of the embellishing of the actual signatures and the covers as well. Okay, so events in the past week, update on my mother, she's fine. We're looking into going to see her. I have not seen my mother in 5 months. Talk to her all the time on the phone, as you know. but they have changed the rules a little bit in terms of visiting. It's still outside visits only, unless you're an essential caregiver, and then there's a whole different set of rules for you to go in. And those are people who go in and they're volunteers that help the staff feed people, or actual family members who have someone in there that needs assistance, a lot of assistance, and they will go in and help out with that with the staff. But for those of us, my mother's not in that league kind of a thing. So I have booked a time in August for my sister and I. They'll only allow 2 people now. It used to be 1, now they'll allow 2, for an outside visit for 30 minutes. I've booked the time. We have to have a mask. We have to stay, social distanced away from the person. We cannot hand anything to them. And why that's important is, the reason we're going is because it's going to be my mother's 80th birthday in about 3 weeks' time. So I discussed it with my sister how we would handle this. And we've decided, well, yeah, we're going to go over, we're going to visit her. My sister and I are going to, what do you get somebody that's at that age, kind of a deal. So my sister's buying my mother a couple of new tops. She talked to my mother about that, what she needed in clothes. And my mother said, well, she'd like some new tops. So we're going to get her some new tops. And that's what we're giving her. I did put together, I rooted a philodendron from my main philodendron in my house. It's the only plant I can grow. It might help if I watered them. Yeah. But anyways, I rooted this earlier in the spring, and we've got a pot for it now. It's a nice looking plant that I've created, and I was going to give that to her for her room. But Walter suggested I hold off on that because it might be dead, because my mother doesn't water anything. Maybe that's where I get it from. And the help there, they don't tend to water things either. And that's not a criticism of them. They have a lot of other things to worry about besides plants, right? So I'm holding off on that until time comes when we can go back and visit her on a regular basis inside, because then I can water it. Okay? So we'll give her that, cards of course, but we cannot give them to her directly. We have to give them to a staff member. They put them in quarantine for 48 hours, and then they'll see that she gets these. So that's what we have planned right now, and we'll see how that all works out. But that's not for another few weeks yet with it. So, yeah. But besides that, she's fine, and that's good. Okay. The update on my sewing machine, I don't know. I just don't know. Actually asked this week, don't want to sound like an egg, but I just put it out there. Do you have any Christmas fabric? This is to Shirley at the Ultimate Sewing. I sent her a text. Do you have any Christmas fabric in? Do you have this item? And oh, by the way, heard anything about my sewing machine? She said she hasn't heard anything yet. She's hoping to hear something this week. We'll see. I have a feeling it's going to be a long time, but meantime, I'm using the store machine, as you know, and that's fine. Okay, so what else? All right, so I was talking earlier about finding joy in things, and Walter's been experimenting in the kitchen, and he's a really good cook. He can take these recipes and he can actually make them work. Well, he made falafels from scratch. What are falafels, if you don't know? They're a Middle Eastern kind of thing. They're basically a ball of ground up chickpeas that you deep fry. And then you make them into like a sandwich or whatever, put a little tahini on them, or tzatziki, that kind of stuff. They're quite good. They're vegan, if you're into vegan. And you can buy them, usually frozen and stuff like that, but he wanted to see what it was like to make his own. So that meant he had to get a bag of dry chickpeas. You can't use the canned ones for this. You have to have dried ones, and there's a process you have to go through. There's a bunch of spices and parsley and other things that go into them, and you chop it all up in a food processor, and then you mix them into balls and you deep fry them. And he did have a little bit of a frustration with our food processor because we have a cheap one, but they turned out pretty good. And so I have a little short video clip showing you what I'm talking about. Okay, so what's cooking in Wally's kitchen today? Wally's making falafels. And here's his falafel mix and his falafel balls. He's experimenting right now to make sure they hold together. When they're in the deep fryer, the spice only got one in there at the moment, because if they don't, then what do you have to do?
Add an egg.
Add an egg. And what are in falafels?
Chickpeas.
Yes.
And
Turn face the camera.
dried chickpeas that have been soaked overnight for a day. Then there's a bunch of spices, and there's parsley, and there's garlic, and there's onions, and cumin, and pepper, and coriander, and salt. That's about it.
Okay, but we didn't put any coriander in because
No, we didn't put any cardamom in.
Oh, cardamom, because cardamom was $64 a pound, and we're out of cardamom, and deemed about.
It was optional, so.
It was optional, so we took the option.
Took the option not to put it in.
And so there's his ball. Now, how long do they have to fry for?
Till they're brown.
Till they're brown. Brown balls.
Brown.
Is
It
that
looks
brown?
like that might be done.
Yeah, it looked like it held together.
Yeah, so.
So there they are. All these nice brown balls. Falafel. So those turned out really good. There is one side effect of falafels that some people have a problem with. Falafels sort of make you, how do you put this gently? Fart. And, we call it the falafel farts. It affects some people more than others, but they're delicious. So they're worth the effort. Eat them on a day when you can open up all the windows in your house. Okay, moving on. What's coming up? I'm getting my hair cut again. Now, you may think my hair doesn't need to be cut right now. And in comparison to what my hair was like before I finally got it cut after 4 months, yeah, you're right. This is nothing. But I'm back on my routine. My routine is I get my hair cut every 3 weeks. So this week I have an appointment to get my hair cut again. And she'll probably trim my beard a little bit, although I'm trimming it myself, and I don't think I'm doing too bad a job with it. Anyways, yeah, that's something to look forward to. And now, we might be doing a little day trip. Yes. Our nephew and his wife and kids went to some art park that features Zimbabwe art. And it's free. And it's outside. And he had pictures on Facebook of it, and it's not that far away from us. Never heard of it, didn't know it existed. And so we might, later this week, go and explore that one day and see what that's all about. And, it's a good, safe trip. You're outside. I don't think it's overly populated. And, yeah, it's something to do. And something we've never done before. So we're going to give that a shot and see how that comes out. And I will do a little bit of a video of that and some pictures to share with you probably next week. And another thing that's coming up this week is another art journal session with my ladies. This one, we share our ideas and things with this, and it's all done by Zoom, as you know. Now, the one thing about this, what has changed is, of course, we're not actually doing any art. We're sharing what we've been working on. We're talking about products we've come across. It is very social. And I have asked the ladies and said to them, look, if you've got some friends that would like to get involved with this, please invite them. Give them the link to it and bring them in to our group. I have thought of opening it up to you, to, other people out there. But I'd have to discuss that with the ladies first, because we are a pretty tightly knit group, and I don't know how they would react to having people that, they've never met at all and, come from other parts of the world. And they might be a little bit more, feel that's evasive, to what we are doing and to our community that we have. So I haven't brought that up to them. And actually, as I speak about this to you, I'm thinking, that might not be such a great idea. But I do have another idea. And I'm going back and forth on this, and I discussed this on Stephen and Walter Live yesterday. But I am thinking, since I do have a subscription to Zoom, I could set up a Zoom session for anybody that's interested and call it something like, I was originally going to call it Sit and Sew or Sew and Chat, but I'd like to open it up not just to people who quilt and to sewers. I'd like to open it up to all crafters of any sort. You know, if you make cards, if you make whatever you do, kind of a thing. So I might call it Craft and Chat, or Chatty Crafty, or I don't know, Crafty Chatty, or something. You know, Craft and Chat. Maybe we'll just keep it simple. And what I can do is I would pick a date and a time for this, and I would post the link for that in the show notes of my vlog and an Idiot Quilter episode. And if you're interested, you can click on that link and join us for it. Now, the reason I hesitate a little bit is because, you know, there's a lot of a-holes out there who might see the link, try to get into the Zoom session, and create havoc. The thing is, though, I do have the control as the host. And the way I've set up my Zooms is I have a waiting room. And the waiting room is basically, yeah, you can click on the link, but you are not admitted until I, the host, allow you in. And I can also control. If you start misbehaving, I can knock you out of there as well. So I do have some control. Now, I also don't think that, I mean, my site, my YouTube channel, I mean, I've got about 3,200 subscribers, okay? And those are not people who come on here regular, every one of them. If they did, I'd have a lot more views. So, I mean, the chances of some nut job even finding this, you know, are slim, okay? So I'm not really that concerned about that. What I am concerned about is, okay, I set this up and I'm sitting there all by myself. And that's probably the chance I have to take. And if that is what happens, then that's what happens. So I have to think about this a little bit more. But my idea is basically you come on to the Zoom and we talk and we share what we might be working on. We might be, if your system is set up in such a way that you can be working on something while we're talking and visiting and sharing, great, you could do that, sort of like a retreat. How long it would run, I don't know. I'd have to see. I'd probably start off with it being just an hour the first time. If it's really popular, if things are just going really well, then I would extend the time, or, you know, the next time I do it, it'll be a little bit longer. You don't know how these things will work. It's new territory, right? But I think it could be interesting. So I will let you know when I have established a link. It won't be this week. I have to think about it a little bit more, do some little bit more experimenting with setup and things like that. But probably sometime next week, later in the week, probably in the early afternoon my time. Now, that's the other problem with something like this as well, with a Zoom. You know, people are from all around the world, different time zones. So, you know, finding a time that would work for everybody is impossible. It just can't be done. So, again, I would possibly record it and post it on YouTube after the fact as well, so those that couldn't join could check it out and see what it was like. I would, of course, ask for people's permission to do that. I don't do anything without asking people's permission with it. I like to protect people's privacy. So anyways, if you have some thoughts about this, I would love to hear those thoughts. And you can put those thoughts in the comments below today's vlog, or you can send those comments to me directly, and my email address, as always, is at the very end of the vlog. So please feel free to comment on it. Tell me what you think. If you've got ideas for the format, if you think it's a great idea or not a great idea, and why, I'd like to hear from you. And as I said, I think I'm going to aim to do this for some time late next week. So that would mean basically I'd probably put the link to the Zoom meeting in the show notes in next Monday's vlog. So anyways, I think that's it. Yep. Can't think of anything else to tell you about right now, so I will say goodbye, and I hope you have a really good week, and I hope you find some joy in the week. Look around you. There's lots to be had, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.